Hello and welcome to RSS.com's training. I am Craig Wasserman, head of relationships for RSS.com. And if you are joining for our first training here, RSS.com is one of the largest podcast hosting companies, and we are excited to always bring to you new trainings, new techniques on how to help your podcast journey. Today, I'm excited. I'm bringing back in, if you've already watched some of our previous videos, you're already familiar with Colin Gray. If you're new to this, then I get to introduce the amazing Colin Gray. He is the founder of Alitu, the podcast host. He's been doing this for years. And today, I mean, the biggest thing that we always run into is why most of us stop podcasting. And the reason most of us stop podcasting is we lack a strategy and we lack a system. And when you have a lack in both of those two, it becomes overwhelming, it becomes work, and you decide, I'm just done with this. So today, Colin's going to give us 9 techniques that he's used to help us understand how to record better, how to produce faster, and ultimately make sure that we can keep moving past our initial 8 episodes that most of us stop at. So without further ado, allow me to bring in Colin here. Colin, how's it going? Oh, see, this is it. So we get to understand that we are having some technical difficulties. We were this is why we're starting a little late if you were watching the live stream. But I can see Colin. I don't know if you guys can. So yeah, I apologize that you will have to deal with some of the technical glitches here. Colin, are you there?
Yeah, I've got
Guys,
you.
the
Okay,
live
good.
stream looks good.
Apologize.
It is only
Cool.
in
Hey,
There you
folks.
go.
So, yeah, perfect. We're hearing from behind the scenes that the live stream looks good, even if we are having some technical difficulties. So, yeah, hopefully you can bear with us. Just give us some comments if you're having some trouble. But yeah, shall I just jump in, Greg?
Yeah, I introduced you, gave you the whole warm welcome, and you're here to teach us.
Excellent. Perfect. All right. Okay, I've got some slides. We'll see if we can get them up. If we can't, that's all right. That's fine. We can do without. I can describe everything anyway. So, my aim in this session really is to help you to create a podcast in the shortest time possible. So, not just any old podcast, but actually a really great podcast too, because this is where so many people get caught out and they really just kill their show. They spend too much time making every episode.
All right. Like we said, this is going to be a little glitchy. We apologize up front.
all right.
All right. Like we said, it's going to be a
Yeah.
little
Should we
glitchy.
without the slides, Greg, just in case? Or no, they're coming up. They're coming up. Let me see. Okay, let's give it a go. Give it a go. There we go. So, without the slides, Greg, just in case. Perfect. Right. So, yeah, let's jump back. So, I think you probably missed it. So, I want to help you make a podcast episode in the shortest time possible. And like I said, not any old podcast, but a great podcast as well, because it's where so many shows get killed. People spend too much time making every episode, so much so that it just doesn't fit into their week and it just isn't fun for them anymore. And of course, different types of shows take different amounts of time to produce, and sometimes spending more time on something can improve the quality of the show or what you get out of it. But that tends to only be if you do spend time on the right stuff. And it's possible to do those right things in far less time than you think. So that's my aim today, to show you the
Well, I don't know. We're just having the worst technical issues here. Previous. Yeah, I don't know why we're having issues.
I know that neither of you are in the Northeast, but I'm going to blame the weather.
Oh, man. I'm sorry, everyone. Snowy Ohio's getting this.
Hello.
There we go. Entertain you guys. Yeah. You don't want me entertaining.
Is it just me that keeps getting kicked out? I just did another check on my internet. My
I
internet is
appreciate
like
the
300
patience,
meg
you
up
all.
and down. Oh dear.
We'll blame the servers
Okay.
and the weather. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I'll try again without the slides. What do you think, Greg?
If you want, go for it.
Let's give it a go. Okay, let's see. So just to give you a very quick bit of background that kind of says how I got to where I'm going to teach you what we'll teach you today. So my job's full-time podcasting at the Podcast Host. We create a network of our own shows and we help hundreds of other produce theirs. Plus we run a podcast maker tool called Alitu for recording, editing, publishing. And so all of this experience has given us the workflows, the mindsets that I'm going to share in these 9 ways. So it just means over the past 10 years, I've gone from fitting a podcast around a normal job to trying to fit as many podcasts as possible into my current job and designing tools to help others do it quicker. So it was always about cutting out the cruft, figuring out what's really worthwhile, and creating a really quality show. So some of those things include how to do content in the minimum time and in a way that makes it easy to deliver, how to get the most from everything you do create, recording and editing tricks that just annihilate the time you spend editing, and then how to find and learn the tools that actually cut time from your process. So hope that sounds good. That's what I'm going to run through in about probably 30 to 40 minutes, and then I'll leave plenty of time for Q&A at the end as well. So if you have any questions, then I'll answer them just at the end. Right, let's give it a go. So first one is go solo. So number 1, go solo. So I think this is a really simple little hack that podcasters can try that actually very few people really do. It's becoming more common. Our survey, we did an indie podcasters survey recently where we asked people what the formats of their show are these days. And going solo actually is a growing art. By that, I mean running a show just by yourself. So it's just you speaking for 10, 15, 20 minutes at a time, or even quite a short one. That's up to you. But the fact of going solo has so many advantages. You have full control over the content. You can plan it all up front. There's no one else's schedules to work around. There's less organization in that sense, like going back and forward. You can make such a tight little episode where it's just all value because there's no fluff relying on, that back and forth with an interviewee, relying on them giving great content, or even the back and forth with a co-host as well. There tends to even be enhanced engagement with you. So often if you're doing an interview show or you're sharing the stage with a co-host, obviously there's less focus on you, but with a solo show, you can focus exactly on your own expertise, your own experience, all of the things that you have in your experience that you can share. It's so authority building for you. So from time to time, it can be a way to really cut the time it takes to create your show just to create a solo episode. Either you can just do one, once a month or so. Maybe you do 3 interview shows per month and then you jump into a solo episode at the end of that month to sum up some of your findings. That can be a nice way to do it. Or you can mix in even more as well. I've seen people go from interview shows to fully solo shows and actually really cut their time, cut the production, cut the workflows, all of those things, and build more authority for themselves over time. Either way, you can mix it up. You can do it both ways. But yeah, it's a really nice tip to be able to cut the time and cut the effort it takes to create that show. Leading on from that, number 2. So number 2 is seasons. So seasons are, I'm just realizing I have, before I go into this, if anyone wants to follow along on the slides, let me give you a very quick link because you can actually go and have a look at the slides. Not that they're necessary by any means, but I have a link which is thepodcasthost.com/ /9 ways. So I'll pop that in the chat just now. So thepodcasthost.com. Actually, I can't do it just now. Greg, if you can manage to get that in the chat, that'd be great. So it's thepodcasthost.com /9 and ways, no space, that anyone could have a look at these slides if they want to. All right. I'll jump back into it now. So the next one is seasons. So I've talked about this a lot on a lot of the content we do because I love it as a format. Seasons are such a great format for a bunch of reasons. One, they're planning nirvana. Like if you actually think about a season of a podcast, you can plan it so much more. Just to define a season, thinking of podcast in seasons is thinking, right, I'm going to do 8 episodes, let's say, because that's 2 months, on this very one particular topic. I'm going to pick a topic, I'm going to break it down into, let's say, 8 lessons over 8 weeks, and I'm going to teach that start to finish in a season. And it's all the episodes are quite linked. You break down that topic, you teach one topic over a certain amount of time. They can be anything from 4 episodes up to 8, up to 12. I tend to think in months, which is why I think in multiples of 4. So 4, 8, 12, 1, 2, 3 months, and that could be a season. So the way you would plan.
There we go. We appreciate it. We were going so quick. We were doing so much. I apologize. Thank you guys for the patience. Nice thing is anyone catching this on the replay, you will be able to fast forward through these issues. But for everyone here live, thank you so much. I put the link in there, and we'll see. What is going on? I'm waiting for Colin to boot back in here. Sorry, the silence. This is Colin's show. You do not want me stealing his thunder, especially since he spent so much time on doing this. If anyone doesn't realize, I'm in Los Angeles. We got Colin in Scotland. We're covering quite a geography, and for some reason, tech just doesn't want to work today.
Hello. Hey, Greg. Oh, I can't hear you now. This is all sorts of glitchiness. You're entirely silent. Looks like you can hear my microphone's coming through. I wonder. Let's see. Can you hear me okay? Let's see if it's in the something comes through in the chat. I'm good. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Right. So planning is so much easier with seasons because you can take a topic and you can plan out you take the topic. So an example I often give is a mountain biking show I used to run. So I used to do a lot of mountain biking. I would take a topic like build a mountain bike, like how to build a bike, and I would break that down. So I would say, right, how to choose wheels, how to choose a saddle, how to choose frames, how to choose the brake systems, things like that. And you break it down into those topics. And each of those topics becomes a bullet point. And that's how you plan your season. So suddenly you go from how to build a mountain bike to having 7, 8, 9, 10 different topics on bullet points. Then you start putting some meat on those bones. Like you take the how to choose a frame and you say, what's the difference between a 26er and a 29er? Things like that. And suddenly you have this plan which breaks down how to build a mountain bike. It's almost like building a course. That's how I tend to think about seasons. But it makes the planning so easy because then next time when you come to create your episode, that standard, like how do I, what do I talk about this week? It's gone because you already have this plan for, let's say, 2 or 3 months worth. So planning in one batch, 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 max, you tend to be able to plan a couple of months worth of content all at once. So that's one of the reasons why I love it. Another is batching. When you do that planning ahead of time, it means that you can record 2, 3 episodes in one recording session, especially if you're going solo and they're shorter episodes. That means that one recording session, one day of podcasting might create you, like a few weeks worth of podcasts. And so you can actually take a couple of weeks off. So that kind of batch recording can be really valuable too. Another thing I like about it is that it's easier to create listener-created or listener-directed content, because I always find it a really good excuse at the end of a season to say, right, that's that season done. I'm going to take 2 or 3 weeks of break. That's another benefit, being able to take a break and justify it. So I'm going to take 2 or 3 weeks off between seasons. In between, here's my contact form. Let me know what you want me to cover on the next season. So the listeners direct your content in that way, but they can also help create it because you can ask them to contribute. You can ask them to send in comments, and that means you can play them on the next season as well. So Q&A episodes work really nicely in that sense. So that's seasons. I love seasons as a method for cutting time, for making it much more easy to produce podcast episodes, for that planning benefits, for those breaks that you can take. And actually, it's well justified. And the breaks are beneficial because you do those listener-created content, directed content, you change format, you change length, you experiment every season. It's a great excuse to change what your podcast is like every season and then get feedback from the listener to see what they like and how the show should be directed over time. Right, number 3. So we've gone go solo, we've gone seasons. Now, number 3 is smart repurposing. So not just plain old repurposing. Everyone knows that they can repurpose content. You can take stuff that you've done before, but a smarter way of doing it is to actually create a few things at a time and to think about how all that content comes together. So let's say you have some written content already. You've got blogging, you've got email lists, you've got social media. A great way to take is to take one of those things and actually see where you're going to work from. So, let's talk about how to do this in a good way. Like, how do you actually turn that blog post, that email, that social media post into good audio, smarter than just reading it out? Because instead of making it sound good, and you want to add value for listeners beyond that written word. But if you don't have any written material, don't worry, it's worth thinking about. It's worth putting this alongside your podcasting, because there's so many benefits to having text alongside your audio. Not just the basic, 50-word summaries disguised as show notes, but real valuable bits of written material that go along with your audio. There's discoverability, getting found. Blogging brings SEO. Emails tend to bring referrals.
All right. As we wait for Colin to come back in, I find, and I know most of us are working, normal jobs. We're not dedicated to just podcasting, but the batch recording is probably going to be one of your greatest assets for helping you.
All right. So, listener loyalty as well. So the written material can bring in better listener loyalty as well, because you're sending out emails that really help to bring people back to the show every time. So that written material is great. But if you already have it, let's figure out how to do it faster in a way that creates even better content. So take any of your own stuff, take an email that went well, take a social media post that did well, a blog post that already gets traffic. Those are gold, because you actually start to see what is resonating with your audience. So pick out a few things like that. Even if you don't have anything like that, you can use outside stuff as well. You can go to Reddit and have a look at a thread that's kicking off, or LinkedIn, have a look at a post that's getting tons of comments on it. Then that it's a topic that really resonates with people. Use that social proof to drive those decisions. If it's your own stuff, it saves even more time, obviously, because it means you don't have to create the show notes. You can reuse them, the email, the social media, the blog post, whatever it is. And, it means that you can summarize the whole thing. You can put that out there, and it just works really nicely on audio. So the way to make it really work nicely in audio, as opposed to just writing, though, is the smart part. You're adding something to it. what works really nicely in audio are stories. Stories work excellently in audio. So let's say you've written an email post, a social media post, you've got a blog post on a topic, put in a case study, put in something around, this is how I did it. This is what I did. Here's how it worked. Here's how I went about it. And then actually show the results. Those stories behind the scenes of teaching, of education, are so much gold for audio, particularly. Case studies, anything like that at all. Or you can add the homework as well. Homework actually works really nicely in audio. So the blog post, the email, whatever, they've got the how-to. Then when you're talking people through it in the audio, you give them the homework. You give them the what to, the tasks afterwards. So you can add that. The benefit of this is you end up repurposing that written material into something that's great in audio, but complementary. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit additionary, but then they can direct to each other, because that podcast episode can then direct back to the blog post. It can direct to your email list. It can direct to your social media. And you end up with a bit of resonance there that really sends people back and forth, grows loyalty, grows engagement, and works really, really nicely. And it means that you're probably doing those other things anyway for growth tactics, but it means that the podcast is easier to create because you've already formulated the idea, you've already written it, you've already planned it out, and now you just need to create the audio version of it, but adding something additional, adding that homework, adding those stories, adding those extra elements that make it really worthwhile listening to that audio. Right, number 4. Another version of smart repurposing that I really like for saving time is going live, but in the right way. So there was a point quite a few years back now where tools like Meerkat were out. You had Twitter Live, all of these things where people were just jumping on social media and recording live productions, live presentations, whereby they would then actually repurpose that into a podcast. And it was a slew of episodes that were just absolute rubbish because they were just full of back and forth. They were full of chat. They were full of the live stuff, which is great on a live broadcast, but you don't want to hear that after the fact. But going live the right way can work really nicely. There's a fact that I teach often about the live recording mindset. So one of the things that kills podcasts most often is the fact that people can spend too much time editing. You get in there, you record something, and you go in with a perfectionist mindset. You start editing out all your ums and ahs. You start editing out anything you think is fluff. You just get really too involved in the content and you spend way too much time editing. And either it just makes it really unsustainable to do, or you just get really bored with it and don't want to do it anymore. The live recording mindset says you should go into every recording as if it's a live recording, whether it is or not. So if you make a mistake, just keep going. Don't use editing as a crutch. This is one of the biggest mistakes a lot of podcasters do. They use editing as a crutch and they don't improve their speaking skills. But if you commit yourself to 5 episodes worth of live recording, you're not allowed to edit. Don't edit at all. Just say, I'm going to put these out almost raw. I'll just do a tiny little bit of trimming. I'll come back to that in a little while. Another one of my tips is around that kind of minimum editing approach. But just record something on a live recording mindset. Just keep going and then listen to it afterwards. And listen to your ums and ahs, listen to your crutch words, listen to the way you speak, and actually improve yourself. When you take away that crutch of the editing, your speaking skills improve so fast, so much faster than when you're using that editing to kind of cover your mistakes. So that live recording mindset is really, really valuable. So either you can do that, going live the right way, and then just put it out there, or there is a way to actually do a live broadcast for real, for growth purposes, do it on YouTube Live, do it on Facebook Live, whatever that might be, and then put it out there. The main thing is that you cut out the chatter at the start. So when you're going live, you have 5-10 minutes of chatter at the beginning. You welcome everyone. You have that engagement that works on live. Then you say, right, I'm going to give you my 10, 15, 20-minute presentation here. So I'm not going to be watching the comments. Just I'll give you the education and then we'll have a Q&A at the end. So let's get into it. And then you go. You do 20 minutes. You don't stop. It's just as if you're recording a podcast, but you're doing it live recording mindset. And then you can jump into the Q&A at the end. And the podcast that you publish, essentially, you just cut off that first 10 minutes of chatter and you start it when the live broadcast education part starts. The Q&A is more engaging. You bring in questions from the audience. That can actually work really nicely on a podcast because it's based on the content. So it's powered by the people, it's powered by your listeners. They'll be asking questions that your other listeners are asking as well. So that can actually make for a really nice episode that takes very little time to produce because it's live. No editing. You just put it out raw. You just put it out the way it is. And that can save a whole bunch of time. All right. Number 5. So number 5, I'm sure you all use interview booking systems. So you've got systems like Calendly, like Book Like a Boss, like SavvyCal. All of these tools are great. They help you stop that interview booking ping pong. So if you do an interview show or you work with a co-host, scheduling in those recordings, these tools add so much. So that's not really the hack in itself. If you're not doing that, please do. That is one hack that changes everything about the logistics of running your show. But the one thing that you can add to that I think makes a huge difference is that nearly all of these tools, all of the ones that I use, certainly Calendly, certainly Book Like a Boss is the one I use, you can queue up a whole bunch of auto prep emails to go out as soon as somebody's booked in their interview. So for example, when somebody books an interview with me for one of our shows, straight away, I'll send them back a thank you and an email that has a template around, here's the things to think about for our interview. So there'll be advice around external microphones, wearing headphones, being in a quiet place, being plugged into good internet, those elements. So you want to really give them that. But then I actually have other emails that come out. So in a few days, I'll have another one, which actually gives them a wee summary of our audience. So it's like, here's the kind of people you're going to be talking to. Here's the problems they have. Here's the types of things we tend to cover. And it really gives them a summary of the show. The goal of our podcast, is it inspiration? Is it purely technical how-to? That really changes how people can give answers to your questions. And so that can really make them think about better ways to serve your audience. Then I'll have another email that goes out a few days later, which is, here are the questions that I ask every single episode. So like, what's your favorite book? What's your favorite tip for creating content more consistently? Those questions are really worth sharing. I don't tend to share all of my questions with interviewees, but I tend to share 2 or 3 of the thinkers, the ones that I really want them to give them time. And then the final one obviously is a reminder. I send reminders a few days before and then like just a few hours before as well, because nothing wastes time like no-shows. But those are big. Like if you queue up 2 or 3 emails that really cut the time it takes to prep for that interview. Sorry, that's the last one. One of the big ones is an email that goes out and asks them the questions that usually takes a while to find. So social media handles, what they're promoting just now, their headshot, their bio, top 1 or 2 stories. So ask them, what's a story that really resonates usually with your audience? Or your top 2 or 3 concepts? What are the frameworks, the mindsets that really resonate with your audience that are unique to you? What's your most unique viewpoint? That's a really important thing to ask as well. And if you can get that going out automatically, very soon after they book into the interview, you can get that information sent to you automatically. So you're not having to go back and forth. You're not having to do too much searching to prep for this interview. You help them do a lot of the work for you. All right. So that's how to make more use of those interview booking systems. Right. Here's a quick one. Number 6, signal editing. So this used to be click editing, I would call it. So click editing is when you make a mistake when you're recording, that live recording mindset. Sometimes there are things that just don't stand. You think you have to edit that out. Either you say a URL entirely wrong, or you have a big coughing fit or something like that. When that happens, what I do is I just pause, silence for a second, and then I'll click into the microphone 3 times. That's just in my tongue. 3 claps, and that works just as nicely. And then I'll restart again. When you start practicing this, you can often restart with roughly the same words as the start of the sentence you messed up. So you'll mess up a sentence, you'll pause, you'll clap, and you'll restart. And you can usually remember the start of that sentence, so you can restart it really simply. The magic of this is that then when you bring it into your editor, you can see these really simply. So an hour-long interview, you can scroll through in your editor, whatever you use, you can see on the waveform, and these clicks, these spikes stand out like a sore thumb. So if you have a look at the slides that I linked you to earlier, you'll see a picture of what they look like in there, but it's 3 spikes with a real pause on either side. So it's really simple to find these things. It means you don't have to listen to an hour worth of episodes.
All right. I guess we froze here. I'm just sorry for the delay. I'm trying to get my screens up. One of the things that he was talking about was the live stream and just going live. And what I love about that concept is also you can go live and publish those live episodes, give you also time to make the edits. So maybe towards the end of the year, if you want, you're like, all right, I'm going to re-release an episode. That re-release of an episode is one that you've kind of already done the edits on now. And so that's an interesting way to think about. It's like, all right, the original episode I've gone live with, and the re-release is the edited version. You bought yourself some time on that. It also gave you understanding of like where people were dropping off, maybe what information you want to cut that might be valuable for you. Um, um, what else was he saying? Sorry, I'm trying to fill your time here, but also let's see here. Everyone's frozen. Hopefully, I'm not frozen. Seasons, the clapping one that I've seen, he's talked about that was really interesting. If you've watched the previous recording with Colin as he walked through Alitu, um, it was so cool to see how that spike in your audio actually comes through. I think I've got him back. You there?
Here we go. We're back. Audio this time. Nice. Yeah, so when you're doing that editing, then you can have a look and you can match up the audio, the transcript essentially, or the audio. So you can listen to, what I do is I skim through, I spot the spikes, I listen to the bit after the spike, first few words, and then I go back and I listen for those same words. And you just drag that bit from that point to the start of the restart and you delete, and that's it, done. 5, 6, 7 mistakes in a 1 hour episode, I can edit that in 5 to 10 minutes max. So rather than listening through a full hour, finding those mistakes, editing them out so it takes like an hour and a half, I can do it in 5 or 10 minutes max. The more modern version of this is you can also do this with words. So that's why I call it signal editing these days, because I tend to use the words edit point 1, 2, 3 instead. And then I use the script. So with Alitu, you can edit in transcripts. You can see the waveform as well. With other tools, you can do the same thing. So you load up the transcript and you can start to drag. And you can even better then, you can actually see the words after edit point. And then you can drag over the words until you see the start of that sentence you messed up. And you just hit delete. And then that's your edit done. So you just do the search for edit point. I tend to add 1, 2, 3 just in case it doesn't pick up the words edit point at any point. So you can also add, actually, the edits are great, but you can also add things like highlight point. You know, if it's a point that was really interesting, you think, oh, that was great. Actually, I want to really make a highlight of that afterwards for clipping. say, highlight points, add insert. Here's a good point for an add insert. You create your own language really around this signal editing that helps you edit things much faster. Okay, number 7. So this is minimum effective editing. So this is kind of in a similar vein. What is the least editing that you can really do to an episode to get it out there and still be relatively polished, still do what you need to do? The trouble is, like, if you try and do all the editing, it tends to be that you end up being an audio production engineer. You end up doing compression and EQ, and you just fiddle. You just do way too much. And it's so much to learn. Like, it's a whole science. It's a whole job to be an audio engineer. The great thing is these days that most software takes care of this. So if you're recording in Alitu, we've got audio production tools that actually do a lot of the noise reduction, the leveling, the EQ for you. Lots of other tools do this as well. So AI audio production takes away the need to be an audio engineer. So generally, you don't have to worry about compression, EQ, etc. these days. And now actually the minimum effective editing tends to be a simple trim. I would say if you're going with a live recording mindset, then you pair it with this, where actually all you do is you commit to just doing a trim. Trim being the bit at the start and the bit at the end. So you just make sure that you take off the silent bit after you press record, you shuffle your papers, you start speaking, trim off that little bit. And then at the end, after you say goodbye, it takes you a second to press stop. So you trim off that bit. And then you could maybe add in a click edit if you want, or a signal edit, whatever that might be. If you really want to take out a couple of mistakes, then that's essential. And that's it. That is the minimum effective edit. Now, some people might argue they want to get some music in there as well. I think that's an acceptable addition, but it's certainly not essential. I would give you the excuse, I would empower you to not have to do music if it's just an extra few minutes worth of editing. Even an extra few minutes, it seems like not that much, but every single week, if that's an extra little job you have to do, it's an extra little bit of fiddling, it's not needed. Just think of the last time you listened to a podcast episode. Did it have music? Did it not? I listen to quite a few that don't, and you don't notice the missing of it. You don't notice that it's not there. So you can go without if you want to. That is the minimum effective edit. Okay, so stick to just that and it makes your life so much easier. Now here's a quick one. Team scripting and planning. So number 8, second last. One of my most used tools these days is Notion. I'm sure nearly every one of you will have come across Notion, but there's a couple of ways that I use it for podcasting that is a decent little workflow that adds a little bit of, uses a few of its particular features to make it really simple for planning. So the way we plan episodes these days, that we've honed it down, is we use Notion and a database. So we create a new page, a Notion database in there. Every time we create a new episode, we create a new entry in that database, which creates a new page, which has a few different things on it. It'll have dates, it'll have hosts, it'll have guests, and it'll have all these things that I can fill in really simply. So it's got a template that we can really simply fill in very quickly. We always know what that format is. So Matthew's my co-host, or I can know exactly where to look for what's going to be in the next episode. We have a little template inside those pages as well. You can set up in Notion template pages, which have here's the intro section, here's the sponsor of the week, here's the technical tip of the week. So you can set up your own template that really saves the time and means that you're not planning every episode from a blank page as well. So that collaborative scripting there, the fact that that's seen by both of us, we can both go in there, we can type away in there, we know exactly where it's going to be, we know exactly what format it's going to be. That makes a big difference. It actually works nicely for external collaborators too. You can bring in other people and let them share it and add their own show notes. And the final little tip there is you can actually embed media really nicely in Notion too. So one thing we've done quite a lot is, as I mentioned earlier, in seasons, we'll ask for feedback, we'll ask for questions. People send in those questions in audio, and we'll then embed those audio clips into our Notion page. And it means that then when we're going through the episode, we're reading through our script, we're reading through our structure, and suddenly I come to a little audio clip that I can literally just press play right on that Notion page, and that plays into our recording. And that just works so nicely. It just keeps everything in the same place. There's no messing around. It's all in one place, easily accessible. All right. Last one. Here's a tip for interviewers. So if you're not interviewing, there could be some stuff that you still actually take from this, or maybe you do interview every now and again, but if you do interviews, the one thing I would say is take control over your interviews much more powerfully. And that means prepping your interviewee a lot more. So interviews are hard to do well. There's often so much fluff, there's so much wasted time. And instead, and you can end up like editing interviews a lot to make them work nicely. Otherwise, you end up with quite padded content often. Instead, you can save time on editing, save time in recording by actually taking a lot more control over those interviews. So here's a few ways you can do this. One is get your interviewee on at the start and give them a proper little brief. Tell them how you like to run the show. This is what I mean by taking control. Take control over how you run the show and don't be afraid to give them instructions on how it should run. So one of them is ask for short answers. Tell them you like brief answers. That actually makes such a difference. Like the biggest thing is when an interviewee runs on and they talk for like 10 minutes after one question. If you say to them, look, our audience really like brief answers, just give me a little bit of feedback. I'll ask you a question. Give me like 60 seconds, 2 minutes. And then anything that I want to dig into, I'll know where to take us because I know our audience. I know how to make you look great in front of our audience. So I'll guide us. If you just give me brief answers, I'll conversationally guide us into the areas that I know we want to dig deeper on. Another one is prep them by planning out a story or a lesson. I talked about asking this using your call booking tool. What stories actually work really nicely? What lessons really resonate well? What are your unique points of view? Prep that. You don't want to prep the whole interview, obviously. It needs to be conversational. You'll have questions. You want it to go back and forth. But it is really worthwhile prepping at least one 5 to 10 minute kind of showpiece part of the interview. Pick out that great story that they know resonates well or teaches something really great. Then ask them, what questions could I ask to help prompt you? So you don't want them to talk for 10 minutes and tell a story for 10 minutes. What you really want is for it to be a back and forth, a conversation, a bit of chemistry. So find out what that story is and then figure out, how you can kind of script that out. And that could be one part of the interview you actually take a bit more control over and you actually have a conversation that really digs it all out and really that's your showpiece part. The third one is prepare them to be interrupted. I think this is something that most hosts don't do half often enough, and that's to interrupt their guests. So if the guest does start speaking too much or going on a bit, then jump in and tell them that or say, can I just pause you there? I just want to dig into this thing that I know is interesting. If you say this to them beforehand, so if you put this in your prep at the start of the interview and tell them, so be prepared to be interrupted. What I mean by this is I will jump in. If I know that we're going off into a path where I know that maybe our listeners are less interested in, or there's a part I know they'll be super interested in, just really reiterate that you know your audience, you know what they'll be really interested in, and therefore you know how to make the interviewee look great to your audience because you'll guide them to the places the audience are interested. If you tell them that, and that's why you will interrupt them, then the guest will not be offended in any way if you jump in and just say it like that. Interrupt more and it creates better content actually for the most part. And then finally, introduce them so well so that they don't have to. So at the start, spend 5 minutes finding their standard bio.
Oh, it looks like we lost Colin. He was so good. So I figured I'd bring on a little co-host here, because who doesn't like looking at dogs? I love that concept. If prompting your guest that you're going to interrupt them, being able to control that conversation. That I don't think I've ever in any episode I've ever guested on have had someone tell me that, and I think that would actually make for a better conversation. So I don't know, Colin.
Talked about earlier. If you read out a great Greg's just popped on. Is there something? Everyone okay, Greg? I can't hear you just now, Greg. Sorry.
You were muted the whole time you were
Can everyone
talking.
else hear him?
Can
I
you
love
hear
how
me?
your dog's getting a good appearance on the
Can you hear
on the
me?
show, Greg.
All right.
Okay, I'll fire on. I'm hearing from Joe in the background that I'm still good here. So, yeah. So if you read out a great bio and you mention your guest's main call to action right at the start, they'll relax and they'll skip their usual party line. You know, there's always a 5-10 minute at the start of most interviews where you say, oh, so tell me about yourself. And then the guest tries to get in all of their credentials. They tell the backstory they know, builds authority. But if you craft your own intro in 1 or 2 minutes, you build their authority, you really big them up. You give them as much of a great introduction as you can. You say they're here because they've just written a book. You can go and check out their book at the end of this episode, but we're going to give you tons from this episode, related to that book. If you really big them up at the very start, it just completely relaxes that guest. Then suddenly they're like, oh, my job's like mostly done. And it so much takes them away from that marketing, that, the selling that often guests do. And justifiably, they're giving up their time to come and give great content to your audience. So they need to get something out of it. But if you help them get that at the very start, in the first minute or two, then you can just jump straight into the meat of the content and often skip most of that fluff. So that's really worth doing as well. All right. That is it. So that's our 9 things. So yeah, just to sum it up, I mean, there's kind of 2 big picture sides to this. You've got your simple routines and you've got your purposeful tools. So like the big thing is really keep your weekly routine as simple and as regular as possible. That means using seasons to simplify the planning. It means going solo sometimes to simplify the logistics. It means recording as if you're live and committing to really simple editing. And it means setting up routines that repeat and repeat and repeat from your booking process to like even the way they warm up. Then secondly, use tools with real purpose. I know I'm bad for it, but as podcasters in general, we're so bad for adding in cool new tools that take up more time rather than save us time. That means fewer, better tools and going deep with them as well. Interview booking tools are great and so much power, but you can do more with them. The click trick is a tool, so use that. And it works perfectly with simple editing tools as well, whether that's Alitu or something else. All of that can annihilate the time that you spend editing. And finally, use these tactics to hone your personal routine. Find the methods that work for you. Try to allocate all that extra time to the content itself. Use it to talk to your listeners. Find out what they really want from you, what they like, what they don't like. Because it's the listeners, it's listening to them. That's what makes the big difference, not an extra pass of compression or a bit of noise reduction. So instead, just get simple, get tooled up, and then you can start growing. So thanks very much for watching that. And like I said, the slides are over at thepodcasthost.com/9 ways. That's 9, the number, and then ways. And you can see all the kind of summary of this. Sorry, Greg, that took a little bit longer with all the back and forth getting on. And we've got a bit less time for questions now.
This was great. There was so much. Can you hear me? Colin, can you hear me?
Got you.
Yeah, great. This was great.
Yep.
The insights, information you dropped, especially that summary just now. The biggest takeaways for me, and Joe and I were talking here while you were going through, is, as I said, no one in all these shows I've ever guested on, no one has ever said, hey, I'm going to interrupt you, or keep your questions or keep your answers short. Don't go long-winded, whatever kind of coaching they would want, because like they said, like you said, your audience. And I love that fact that you're like, know your audience, know what they're interested in, understand. So always be asking those questions. Your tech piece, I love that component is, here, RSS.com and all the other tools I've ever worked for, we always forget that as a platform, we are always evolving. And once you start using that tool, you stop evolving with it, even though the tool is giving you more. So always start learning what are the other functions of that tool, because it's probably there to help you as you've built with your own tools. You're like, I'm doing this for my own. So I'm guessing my someone who's using this would want to use it as well.
I wonder if you can still hear me.
I can hear you. I don't know if anyone can hear me, but yeah. So those are great things.
I've got you back.
So one question that came up, and if there's other questions here that for everyone that's still streaming, the question is, what's your favorite underutilized or underground format that you'd like creators to try more of? So you've covered quite a bit of things, but what are the underutilized or underground methods that you're not seeing?
Yeah, so beyond just solo shows, I mean, the most common is like, so we have interview shows, we have co-hosted, which are both great, solo shows, which I love. The thing that I think most people don't try enough is actually segmenting their show. So take your show and actually create a format whereby you have different segments. You can think back to radio. Radio used to do it all the time. So they'd have like a special feature every single day, which is on at a certain time of day, and people would tune in just for that. There's real familiarity, there's real power around having these segments that people know and love. And they say, that's my favorite segment of that show. You know, it's an hour long show, but there's a 5-minute segment, the quiz of the week, quiz question of the week, the news item joke or something like that, you know, that they look forward to. So beyond just the presentation formats like solo, co-hosting, blah, 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 that's actually a really nice way to get into the sort of changing your format a little bit and finding a way to really bring listeners back often.
Joe and I are chatting here. Um, it also adds the ability to get sponsors because now you can get a sponsor if you're thinking that way. And I know too often podcasters are, but you can go like, hey, sponsor this segment, sponsor this section, because you
Mm.
know that there's a format that's actually tied to that, which is kind of cool. When you're thinking about how do I sell this besides just doing host reds, you can do the segments there. That's a great one. Um, can't access the slides. All right, let me drop. What is it? The podcast host.com 9 ways, right?
That's the one.
Slash
Yeah.
9 ways. It redirects to ship your show. Is that it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, great. So I just dropped that link in there for everyone. Is there anything
Yeah,
else? I
perfect.
know we're at time, but is there anything else you wanted to cover? Anything else that we haven't? Am I frozen?
For me, sorry, I didn't hear the start of that, but if you meant that for me, Greg, no, I
Yep.
think that was all good. Yeah, so I hope that was useful to folk. I hope it saves a bit of time and helps you get that workflow optimized, get the show out every single week. Consistency really is the biggest thing. So that's why I tend to teach this stuff. If you can get yourself, you know, taking less time to create the show, either you can make yourself way more consistent more easily, or you can find more time to do the growth, the monetization side, which actually most people end up not spending enough time on. So yeah, I hope that helps. Thanks for having me.
No, Colin, thanks again, once again, for sharing not only the knowledge you did last training that we got, but then these 9 ways here. And appreciate the technical glitches, not only from you bearing with it, but everyone else that's tuned in here.
Yeah, I'm impressed. 18 people have stuck with us. That's great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So with that, if you've made it to this end, we have other trainings that I highly recommend in a couple weeks. We've got one on social media because everyone's telling you that there is no way to use social media to help with podcasting, that there are different audiences, but we'll be bringing on an expert who can actually say and teach you the trends on doing that differently. And then you would highly recommend going look and watching all of our other videos. Once again, rss.com is the place to host your podcast. We are here to help you with the distribution, the monetization, start downloading, start monetizing with as little as 10 downloads a month, which is incredible. And we also have a free plan. So you have no reason not to take all these 9 ways that Colin just told us about. Start with rss.com's free plan and at least start getting your systems and processes in place. So thank you guys, everyone, for tuning in, not only on this live stream, but watching later on. Thanks a lot and have a great one. Keep podcasting.